Been covering the digital disruption for the last 25 years. So what you guys are going through now, we've seen this before. And we've seen it, we've covered it, and we've talked about it in both events and in our online journalism, through books, through tech, through apparel, through banking, through travel, through auto, through publishing, and many more. The ways in which digital upstarts and the digital channels and the fragmentation of attention have impacted almost all different industries. And some of it is the same old story. New generations of intermediaries promise to bring new scale and efficiency to an old industry, but the price is they'll preempt or hijack your relationship with your consumer. We have seen this happen again and again. Digital makes frenemies. They've been doing it now for over 20 years. QSR, of course, is a little bit different. And this has been, honestly, for me, as a journalist who's been covering digital for the last 25 years, QSR has proven to be a really interesting take on an old story because there are a lot of interesting twists here. You guys are being disrupted in a lot of multiple ways at once. It's coming at you in a lot of different ways. First of all, of course, and we'll be talking about this a lot, the delivery economy and the ways in which food delivery is really changing the game on a lot of different levels. But of course, before that, you were already having to deal with food directory apps and ratings apps that were sort of changing the ways in which consumers were getting to you and discovering you and talking about you. But then there's the radically changing eating habits. Takeout is the new home cooking. And it has really changed and created tremendous new opportunities, new diversity in the whole food market. And these digital channels also fundamentally change the nature of the competitive landscape. Delivery and the takeout craze blur a lot of the old categories of what is and isn't a QSR now, and what types of food different providers offer. You know, I go to Wawa for my subs. I hadn't even thought about that a few years ago. And then you layer onto that some of the most familiar of the disruptions that we've already seen, overall fragmentation of media attention, and how it makes brand building and awareness retention a nightmare of unattributed scattershot media buying for everybody. So, but now, unlike a lot of other industries that have been disrupted before, people are still really hungry. You can always bank on that, and Uber Eats is not going to start cooking for them anytime soon. So you definitely have that in your favor. And you also have a whole generation of helicopter parents who barely knew how to cook for themselves, let alone traumatize their kids about how to cook. So there's a lot of upside to this market. In some ways, a lot of upside that isn't present in some of the other markets that have been disrupted. And over the next few days, we're going to hit on a lot of these points. We're going to talk about delivery. We're going to talk about loyalty and the new shape of data-driven CRM. We're going to talk about the evolving customer journey. We're going to be talking about fragmentation of media and the challenges that's making for everybody when it comes to allocation and attribution. And of course, we'll be talking about the social channels and how they do and don't perform for you. But we start, as we do with all of these summits, with you. These summits are really about peer-to-peer sharing of best practices. That's the model that we've been following in these events, these insider summits, for the last 15 years. So what I'd like to do is really start with your opinions. Now, I'm about to assault you with a monstrous deck that is of your own making. Those of you the marketers in the group, you know that I surveyed you several days ago, and I asked a key set of questions. And these are sort of the setup questions for the event itself. And I got back volumes of response. There are 30 slides in this deck. I promise you I'm not reading them all. But I am going to summarize some of them and try to poke up some of the themes that we'll be talking about over the next few days. By the way, this entire deck with all of the direct responses from all of you is now online. If you go to the agenda for the event and look over this opening remark, you'll see the full deck with all the detail. But I'm going to dance through just some of this stuff because there were some really interesting comments, and it really sets the tone for some of the thoughts that a lot of you are bringing to this event. So we started by asking, what's been the biggest marketing challenge you've faced in the last year? And most responses tended to be tended to be media related. A lot about attribution modeling with so many channels, so many incompatible and hard to measure channels, incompatibility across platforms. Of course, we're seeing a whole range of walled gardens, not only the old ones, but the new ones. And of course, also attributing, and please don't try to read these, they're all online, you can go and peruse them later. later, but I just wanted to highlight a couple of good pieces. How you budget and allocate for digital media buys and budgeting across this, but also attributing to all these different channels is one of the key challenges, but also balancing budget across new customer acquisition as well as customer relationship. Allocation across acquisition and attention, but also budget constraints, increased competition, continuing to find ways to stand out and connect with your customers. We're going to be talking about brand building, in fact, in the next couple of, today, but also technology. The simple complexity of the customer journey for QSR now, the ways in which your customers now sometimes are being forced into a whole set of technical hurdles just to get to you. I'm a vegan and I have a local vegan restaurant and they won't even let me call them directly anymore. I have to go through a whole series of technical hoops just to get my food from them unless I want to go and wait for half an hour. Sorry, I'm having a little trouble reading our own stuff. The idea of the ways in which categories are actually being changed, and everyone is a competitor now. The ways in which the lines are blurring across categories, and different people are using these new opportunities to encroach upon new categories. Next, I asked, where have you seen the biggest shifts in your media marketing spend in the last 2 years? Overall, almost everyone is moving budgets to digital. They're all insisting that digital is giving them a much greater handle on measurability and accountability. But there's also some, one of the things that I've seen is there's some disagreement in talking to you directly. There's some disagreement about the effectiveness of social. That's going to be one of the things that I think we'll be talking about over next couple of days. Some, like this marketer, finds that there's full funnel value in social, but there are others who are finding much different results, or finding a lot of difficulty in customer acquisition on social. And again, a lot of move into mobile and digital channels throughout. And a lot of people who are saying they actually are really fundamentally pulling and significantly pulling budget away from traditional channels and moving into digital. Interestingly, though, here's someone, just to sort of give you an illustration of the range of approaches. Here's someone who's actually pulling money out of digital and finding a whole series of very traditional direct channels to drive people and to move people into their loyalty and online programs. Next, I asked, what's been the biggest benefit from working with the new generation of delivery providers? And of course, almost everyone agrees that these platforms are finding new customers for you in a lot of different ways, exposing the brands, broadening the audience, brand exposure, new and different audiences being brought in, also being able to attribute some sales lift, if not profitability, to these channels. And the ability to, you know, as you can see here, some of our restaurants are now generating as much as nearly 40% of their sales from delivery. Some of you have reported to me that in some regions you're actually up to over 60% is now coming through this channel. Some of you have even seen this transition happen just within the last 2 years, which fundamentally, of course, challenges your whole infrastructure and the way you work and the workflow at individual restaurants. This is one of my favorites, my favorite responses to this question. The biggest benefit has actually been the hardships we've dealt with as a consumer of said delivery providers. We were able to partner up with Lunchbox and use all those struggles as a consumer to launch our brand new app and online ordering. By seeing the ways in which the delivery platforms are screwing things up, you were able to build your own. I thought that was one of my favorite answers. I've also asked what's been the biggest challenge, of course, in working with these delivery platforms. They were diverse but insistent. Almost everyone, of course, is mentioning the pressure on margins, the percentage cut that delivery systems are taking, but also the idea that it can overwhelm the business itself. One of the things I think a lot of industries have seen is when they turn on a lot of Amazon partners, for instance, found in retail, that once you turn on that spigot, it often can disrupt your entire workflow. One of the things that came up a lot has been the inconsistent quality among the delivery platforms and the ways in which it pushes the consumer into often very uneven experiences and puts the customer out of the control of the brand itself. Another thing that I heard a lot of, especially in discussions with many of you individually, is the customer service on a lot of these platforms. I think several of you mentioned to me, we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars through these platforms and I can't even get them to answer the phone. One of the interesting things that's happening among the delivery platforms right now is that in many ways they're not ready for their own success. They don't have the infrastructure, they don't have the customer relationships, and they don't even have the B2B relationships in place or the knowledge or the experience really to service both your industry but also service the consumers effectively. And again, customer service. They have changing teams. They're living like startups, but they're moving into a world that has a lot of established patterns and a lot of established customer support traditions, and they're not quite ready for it. Pricing, of course, and the need, at least from this perspective, the need to really raise prices so that margins can increase. And of course, a lot of contention over data, the ways in which all of you can access their platforms as advertising vehicles, but especially that we're seeing here the rise of yet another walled garden, another digital disruptor that's insisting, just give us your customers, don't worry, we're not going to cannibalize your users. But we've seen this happen over the last 15 years in a lot of different categories. The same pattern emerges. I asked what marketing channel or approach has been most successful in driving growth in the last year. Many of you, despite all of the woes with delivery platforms, cite that delivery and off-premise has really been the strongest of the drivers for growth. Like most marketers being disrupted by digital, most brands are trying to find ways of using loyalty programs and first-party data. One of the things that the walled gardens have done over the last 10, 15 years is to drive greater interest and the greater value in first-party data and collecting that first-party data to have that direct relationship with the consumer, to be able to use it not only to have the direct relationship, but also to use it for much more targeted advertising and recapturing and retargeting them on the online advertising ecosystem. And again, focusing on loyalty, focusing on leveraging first-party data across the different platforms. And also a range of different approaches, from social to search. Search came up a number of times in talking to you as one of the more effective ways, especially to drive people towards your online ordering, but also the role of TV advertising. And we're going to be talking a little bit about the role of TV advertising in a second. And then I asked, I thought this was an interesting idea of actually pulling back. Although the trend is towards diversification of menu and menu expansion, here was an idea where they found success by actually focusing on their own best sellers. It not only helped reinforce the idea of the brand and brought the brand back to its core competencies, but it also focused their own staff on focusing on a few core products. And then finally I asked, what's been the most disappointing? We always get a range of, I always ask this question of all marketers, what have been the most disappointing channels that they work with? Programmatic display, actually in the last couple of years has sort of emerged as one of the ones that is often pointed to, so you're not alone. But also, and this is interesting, and this will be worth talking about, especially I think in the roundtables, is influencer marketing. The ways in which it's difficult to track, the way in which many marketers seem to think that it's peaked, that it's overpriced, and that it's not really delivering what it's been promising. And also as I said, a diversity of opinion about social media, how to use it. Again, I think this is a topic that will come up a lot in the roundtables because as I was talking to you personally, as I was getting a lot of your responses, one of the things I noticed is there's a range of feelings about how social media works. There are a lot of people who are really having trouble making it really move incremental sales and drive traffic. And then finally, terrestrial radio, one that actually, I'm wondering, how many of you are using podcasting? I'd be curious to see if that, since it's a highly localized and effective driver for a lot of categories, I'd be interested in that, if that's going to be an emerging category. Anyway, all of these are up online. You'll be able to read through them in detail there. But that's how we start here, is we want to start with your perspectives and your views, because that's really the fodder for the way this summit works. Just some basic summit rules for those of you who haven't been here before. Everything that we do on stage, because we're MediaPost, we're the largest publisher of this stuff online, everything is on the record. We're live streaming it over MediaPost.com. We'll archive it, we'll report it, we're live blogging it. But then at noon, we all come off stage and go off the record. And the roundtables, I can't emphasize enough how important the roundtables are to this experience. We've been doing this now for 15 years, and we're told again and again that the roundtables at the end of every morning really are the heart of the summit. It takes the ideas, the examples from on stage, and it activates them into real conversations for all of you. So I urge you, do not go out and grab that phone call. Do not go out and do that quick meeting. Stay in and do the roundtables. They really do pay off, and it activates discussions that you'll take out in activities and in the evening meetings this afternoon and this evening. It's really the heart of what we do. And a lot of you have said to me, and think more so than any other summit that I've programmed over the years, as I've talked to a lot of you, one of the things that I've heard most often from this group is, I'm really interested in hearing what other people are doing with fill in the blank. And that means that the roundtables, I think, really are going to be energized. In fact, one of the interesting things that I found about programming this summit is how QSR as a category has so many emerging players, so many localized and regional brands that still have their founders involved, that still imbue the entire organization with a distinct and different culture, that you're all coming at it from many different directions and all have unique experiences, all have unique marketing cultures within a lot of your companies. It's really been exciting to discover a lot of these companies that, because I'm in the Northeast, I've never heard of before. But I think we're going to have a great time here, really discussing and exchanging ideas. So welcome to all of you. But we're going to start with going the opposite direction of a lot of the regional and smallers, with one of the kings. And one of the kings not only of QSR, but also one of the kings of media in QSR, Burger King. Even the biggest of the QSR brands still has to struggle and rethink the ways in which they use media. We are in that fragmented an environment. Not only watching the consumer journey transform radically in discovering brands and making decisions, but also the ways in which the media itself had fragmented into TV, OTT, social. To talk us through the ways in which he is helping Burger King rethink the ways in which it comes at media, but also the ways in which it attributes those different media, is Jorge Oliveira, who is the lead media, digital, and social channels at Burger King. He's been with Burger King for several years. He's been leading the charge with transforming their media program into a multi-platform, attributable media program. Please welcome Jorge.
Wow. Hey guys, thank you, Steve. I think it's already on. Cool. So thank you all MediaPost. Thank you, Steve, Kevin, Ryan, Maya, everybody who helped me here today. Before I really start, guys, I have 3 important messages. The first one's of course, is from my legal team. They love us. We are super partners. Of course, it's from my legal team. It just says that the views and conclusions here in the presentation are on my own and not necessarily Burger King's. The second important message, it is, if we're working a holiday, kind of we are here, let's try to make it fun, right, at least. And the third one, and finally, good morning. Good morning, everybody here. All right, my name, it's Jorge Oliveira, Jorge. I have been working with marketing all my career. I have had positions outside QSR, now at Burger King. I have had positions in different countries, like Brazil, some countries in Latin America, and I am in the US, in Miami. And as Steve said, I am the Media and Social Channels Director for Burger King US. And more on a personal note here, I have a lot of hobbies. As you guys can see, movie, music, guitar, soccer, skateboarding, surfing. And talk about surfing reminds me of 2019, right? We had a lot to do, like huge campaigns to launch. We had the Impossible Opera, I'll be talking about it. So we had a lot of like really huge mountains to climb, even higher than the Camelback here. And sometimes we would look back behind and we would see like this wave trying to really engulf us all. But really, we had like, I just brought some campaigns here 2019. We had almost like 3 campaigns per month, so it's a lot. We did a lot, yes, Jesus, yes. We did a lot, but it really paid off, right? So we had close to 40 billion impressions in internet media. It's like huge. We had a lot of fun. We have fun with the Impossible Opera. We had fun with Stranger Things. We had fun with, even on Twitter, trolling, making fun with our president, Trump. But really paid off. Like we broke our own records in terms of earned media impressions. We are really getting really spoiled. Like sometimes we make like a campaign doesn't do or doesn't reach 1 billion and we say, oh my God, this is, you know, but it's like it's still 700 million. So we're getting really spoiled here. And then that wave in the beginning, you really felt like this, just like pure joy when you ride your first wave. Or really felt like this, right? So I think Burger King last year in Cannes won as the most creative brand of the year, being ahead of Nike, IKEA. So we were all very excited here because like Fernando Machado, our CMO, he said, guys, we won't make it. I think we'll be second and third. And he knew. So when like they announced, we were like, oh my God, like we did it. So it was really, really amazing. But my job here with you guys is just to share a little bit what the teams in media and social channel at Burger King, they are helping the brand to really break through and being this brand who uses like creative as like a really competitive advantage. So to talk a lot about media, it's interesting because Steve was reading all these emails that came really from us. And they are sometimes controversy. I love the one that he read about like someone saying, I'm pulling back from digital and going traditional. And probably this makes sense, and I'll be talking about this a little bit. Like it's a lot going on, and not all the things that it's out there is for everybody. It depends like your strategy, what you're trying to achieve, right? So I'll be just playing a couple of like media headlines here. So we'll be a kind of awkward silence. I'll remain in silence, just for you guys to pay attention here, and then we're gonna discuss. Do you guys know this? So as I said, I love soccer and I love memes too. So this is Paul Pogba. This guy is amazing, right? It's like he's one of the best soccer players out there. This like actually happened in the World Cup final. And he was so excited. He didn't know he would go to the left, to the right, where to look at. And sometimes felt like media people, right? Like you're reading all these things, like GRPs are going to die. And then like the upfront dollars and networks, they are up. Digital is everything. And then you see like Facebook coming for more than $1 billion. So it really depends, right? Like I was talking about right now, like this brand that was saying, I'm pulling digital. Maybe makes sense for him. I think like there are a lot of options out there. Everything is possible, but probably all the possibilities are not for all the brands. I think what it's important is to understand what is like have a clear diagnostics of your like media plan and to say what is the like the road, the path, the future path that I want to pursue for my brand, and then go chase the things that make sense, because I do believe that all the things out there, like if you're trying to pursue all of them, you're gonna be just like spinning at the same place. So I think for Burger King, the main headline was that almost like 1/3 of the viewership was vanishing in 2 years, right? I think Burger King, as the other major QSRs, they are all heavily invested on linear TV. And to read something like this, it's painful, right? So in fact, we did an analysis that we did a correlation between the effectiveness of the GRPs to drive sales, lift sales. And we found out that actually the GRPs are becoming less and less effective. In fact, like minus 35% versus like 6 or 7 years ago. So it's just borderline of this conversation that the dollars on TV are working less and less for you. I think in the past, you would go like super strong and bold on TV and then probably would do the kind of almost do the job for you, but it's not the case anymore. One of the reasons, as we know, like we are seeing OTT growing a lot. And one of the reasons is that like we did this analysis back in the time here for This Is Us. One of the reasons is because for certain shows, time, it's not that relevant anymore, right? So we are living in the world that it's the now. We are living in the world of the on-demand. It's not anymore networks telling us what to watch and when and where to watch, but the consumers saying about convenience, like saying, I want to watch on that platform on the time that I can and the time that I am available to watch. And this is not like going on media, right? Like think about Amazon. So Amazon Prime, like, wow, oh my God, they can deliver anything you want in 1 day, in the same day or in 2 days. It's not anymore. They can deliver now in 1 hour, 2 hours, right? So we see here that the vast majority of people were not watching This Is Us in this case live, and they were watching the different platforms. And we know, like, these OTT partners, they are on the rise, like, serious, like, growth here, like, double-digit growth. And who's leading the pack? It is the viewership, right? It's the younger demo. There's, like, a huge difference here in terms of demo, broadcast, cable, and online video, almost like 20 years of difference. For legacy brands as Burger King, this is huge, right? Because I think all the legacy brands, they were trying to connect more with the younger audience, and this goes beyond QSR. The other day we were having the CMO from ABI, Anheuser-Busch, like at our office. He was like saying the same, like they have the same dilemma. So it is like an issue or a challenge for all the legacy brands out there. But in the moment, do I go left, do I go right, what do I do? At the same time, we see that cable, like the majority of people they are pairing OTT subscription with cable. So cable is not like dead right now, right? I think I was having lunch the same like with like a major executive the other day with a network, and he was telling me that he expects this year and upfront to be talking like for us to be listening more and more about advanced TV and addressable. So they are reinventing themselves in this space. It's like they will retransform a lot yet to happen. So the King has been working a lot of like fronts here, but I separated two really quick that I'll be touching base really quick with you guys. Of course, then it's reach, and then attribution. I think we want to change this game on TV. That like I have a joke internally that sometimes looks like you put on TV, you buy based on impressions and CPM, and then you go, you light up a candle, and you pray to see if someone will watch, and like go out the couch and go to the store. We are getting fancier. That like this joke, it's less and less at Burger King now. At the beginning was, but we want to change the game, right? We want to be able to transact TV the same way we transact digital, based on direct response, based on behavior. And now I have just one slide. I'll be showing like an actual case that we did with like a media partner. But to talk about reach, like we have been adjusting for a massive brand like Burger King. For us, it is more important to have more reach than GRPs. So for us, no kind of problem on that. Like we are aiming reach here. And yes, we have been doing transitioning from like cable networks to do like more OTT and digital partners as well. And here, like, let me show you like a couple. This is like an actual campaign that we did. So it is like actual results that we did with OTT in our case the goal was really simple. We really want to understand how much incrementality would come from these partners over linear, right? Since like the viewership in linear is going down. And we found here in this case like was 4%. So 4% of the exposure were coming from this case like Roku alone over linear. So it's quite a lot. And one of the reasons this is happening and why it's still like so incremental, if you see here in this case, like among all Roku users, 83% only saw the campaign, the spots on Roku. That's why it shows the incrementality like to be so high. On the same note, same campaign, but now like an example from Hulu. On the left, it is the visitation rate, so exposure versus control. We do see the exposure group like outperforming the control. And it's really interesting because it starts at the same point. So I felt this kind of, like makes sense, and then like declines and they find themselves like in the last day. And also think that it's like that we have been learning more and more. It's about like frequency and how frequency, there's like a clear linear correlation between more exposure to the same person, more the rate of visitor rate. So one of the things that we did also was like, I was kind of concerned to have like, okay, then we do this and how we measure. I don't want to be dependent of the partners to give us like information. I want to put, like Steve was talking about like methodology, right? Like I want to put everybody under the same methodology and see and be able to compare here. So one example, I think there are many out there, but we did a partnership with like iSpot, who tell us like the viewership by partner and how much is aggregating over linear. And as a result, all of that, so doing this transition of like less linear to more OTT and more digital, I think I see some partners are here, and we have been doing more business with you guys, I think, each year. Although our impression is less than the previous year, like we are good, right? Because we are in the highest level of reach. And definitely if we had sticky here to TV, the numbers would be definitely down. So we are happy with the transition we are doing, the shifts that we're doing, because like the reach is the thing that it has to go up, and it is going. So one is like based like on business guarantees, and I was making the joke about like light up a cannon, etc. But like we really want to change the game here in terms of how we do business, especially with change from CPM to really what business would be a business guarantee for this industry. Could be like a store visit or could be like a sales lift. So this is like a real example that it's live. Don't ask me the results. I have, but I can't tell. But just to give you like an insight what we did. So we were approached by a media company. The inventory was around like 3 times our like CPM on TV. And we did a deal based like you guys have to deliver 3 or more times in terms of store visits. And if not, you make up the difference of impressions. So it's a deal for us that it's the kind of deal that we want to do because push us to be more on the attribution side, push us to be transact on TV based on ROI and based what matters, which is like in our case, store visits or sales lift. So when everything comes together, right? Like sometimes like the media person looks like a maestro of a symphony. He's not the guy playing, but he's the guy giving, like giving the tones and giving the directions, showing like where to have emphasis and where to have not. And when that's like how like sometimes like we fail, but then because it's the things that we do, sometimes you do not clear see. It's not like a video, it's not an award that you want. But I think when you have like a launch like this, and you have like a thing that's like amazing for us, which was like the impossible, and you have a thing that you really can break through, having like a stronger media plan can do this kind of results. So I'll be playing a video here about the Impossible Whopper.
Don't say it 'cause I know I'm cute, baby. If I'm shining, everybody gonna shine.
The Impossible Whopper. 100% Whopper, 0% beef.
Meatless Whoppers. Impossible Whopper. The Impossible Burger.
It's true, although it is impossible.
Everybody's talking about this Impossible Meatless Whopper. This is a big deal. This is not an April Fool's joke.
First bite, I would know the difference between beef and whatever else you have.
Tastes like a Whopper.
Tastes like Whopper.
Tasted just like a Whopper should taste.
Time to put it in the troops. Gotta
impossible situation ever in life.
You're f***ing kidding me.
Blame it on my juice. Blame it on my juice. It ain't my fault that I'm out here getting loose. Gotta blame it on the goose. Gotta blame it on. I'm on top of the world. I'm on top of the world.
What's up, man?
Going in. This is legit.
So good. Just crushed my burger.
Chef, I'm so good.
Plant-based revolution going on right now.
So the impossible was really cool. I think it was the kind of, at the same time, was the thing that we look behind and say, like, Jesus, this is a lot, and how are we gonna make it? And we did it, and like, it was great. To touch base on really be on social channel, and like I was reading, like Steve was mentioning, like brains thing, like how we, like how we break through on these. It is like a super like clear environment, and it is. I'll be showing like a couple of slides here. But we are, I think Burger King does great like on the social channels, and it definitely has been helping us in terms of reach as well. But the reason why it's so hard like to break through is like one of the reasons like we scroll every day like a 13-story building of content. So can you imagine like someone scrolling like non-stop in the middle of the feed pops up an ad, like how much like how much value it is on that, like how much you can like stand out in the middle of like all this content, and on top like 10,000 of those messages are brand messages. So it's really hard to stand out. But I think we know like millennials prefer brands with purpose and attitude, and I think this is like perfect for Burger King, which is a brand like it's a bold brand, it is challenger. I think on the social channels we really go, I have a video you guys are gonna see, like we really go crazy, really wild sometimes, which is cool, but I think more than be cool, it is like necessary. I think I always talk to my team like, guys, to be vanilla common here, to do these posts, like it's really a waste of time. I think or you go big or bold or go home, like in that sense. Like millennials, they prefer brands with an attitude, even if they don't agree. Just the fact that you have an stance, like they admire because like we're a company with a voice. And I personally love social channel because I think it's where the space the brand can comes alive. I think it's where the king real becomes like a majesty, and he has a voice, he has like his own personality, he has like a behavior. So I think that is perfect. I think like TV or other traditional media, it's like more passive, like you are forcing a message over someone. Here it's different, right? Like you are pushing a message, but like they are all the audience, like they can reply to you, they can say they agree, they don't disagree, they can put meme back to you, trying to backlash. So that is natural and that it's good, right? Like show that the brain is part of like a topical moment, it's part of the culture, part of the society. So we really love social channels. We have a lot of fun here and we are having great results. So I think I have a video as well. I do. So let me show this video, like a couple of recap that we're doing on social channels as well.
There's no middle ground at Burger King. I mean, I'd never seen such steamy chicken nuggets before. That's compelling advertising right there.
Let's party.
Burger King asked Wendy's to the prom.
What? Yeah.
Oh, and guess what? She said yes.
That is genius, is it not? Actually really, I mean, we're talking about it.
IHOP? No!
Burger King changed their name to Pancake King.
Sorry, old Burger King can't come to the forum.
Burger King made fun of the president. Burger King! They put out a tweet making fun of Trump for misspelling hamburgers on Twitter.
Burger King tweeted, due to a large order placed yesterday, we're all out of hamburgers. We're all out of hamburgers.
That is classic.
President's tweet has now been deleted and retweeted with the spelling error corrected.
Burger King went through my old tweets and they liked 3 from 2010. And I tweeted, why is Burger King liking my 8-year-old tweets? The reason behind the move, Burger King is bringing back funnel cake fries. The thing that upsets me the most about all this is it's just how genius it was. You win, Burger King.
Burger King's introducing real meals, aiming to raise awareness about mental health.
Not everybody wakes up happy.
Take your opinions and suck it, world.
Very edgy.
These guys got senses of humor.
Go hard or go home.
Burger King's social media manager should be the new president of the United States.
Burger King!
Whoa! So really cool. Can you guys imagine like what happened when we saw Trump had misspell the hamburgers? Can you imagine like what happened now? We have a group of our agency. It's like everybody connected. That suddenly I don't know what I was doing. I think I was like working and like non-stop messages. Then we do not do. Talk to this guy. Talk to Fernando. We do like was really crazy. And then we did it, and then the results were here. I think also won silver, was like in PR, silver PR in Cannes last year as well. You talk about Cannes really quick. I think I have, yeah. Who know this case? Who has seen? I would say kind of half. Okay, cool. So let me explain really quick and the reason why I brought here. I think this case won Titanic Grand Prix last year in Cannes, and the reason why I kind of brought here, it is because like who wins the Titanic Grand Prix, they like this category was born because like when you cannot say this is like a film or digital or PR, goes to Titanic Grand Prix and kind of defines like where the advertising as a whole like it's going like and what's going to shape the future of the advertising. So I brought here like yeah it was huge on social, but it's a social case. No, not really. There is a film here. It's a film, not really. So there are a lot of things here that at the same time, there is a lot here. It is PR, it is app, but at the same time, it's not. But it's really cool. The business that we did like behind was like to launch our app, and I think scored big time like in Cannes and other like D&D other awards as well. So I'll play here, and that will be my last slide video. Thank you so much for listening to me, and take a look.
Burger King wants you to come here. Yes to McDonald's.
Burger King is trolling its fast food rival
with a promotion available through the Burger King mobile app.
Yeah, but there is a small catch.
So I saw this Burger King commercial where you can
Get a Whopper for a penny.
Only if you open the app while you're at McDonald's.
That doesn't even make sense. You have to go to McDonald's for a Whopper?
Whopper?
Use Burger King's BK app, then be within 600 feet of a McDonald's restaurant.
Burger King geofenced over 14,000
McDonald's restaurants in the U.S.
Unbelievable.
So I parked my news car about 100 feet from a McDonald's.
I'm at McDonald's getting a coupon for Burger King. I almost feel like I'm stealing.
Let's go for the unlock.
Yes!
You unlocked the Whopper detour.
This is a really cool promo, guys. How fun is this?
That's crazy.
Nice.
That's so horrible.
That's funny.
This is an amazing use of technology to get consumers out of a rival store and into your own store.
Can you do a Whopper Jr.?
They probably could make that. It wouldn't be as good as Burger King would, to be honest with you. Okay, where's the Burger King?
Like 4 blocks to your left.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jorge. We have some time for questions of Jorge, and throughout the next 3 days, if you have a question, please stand, let us know who you are and who you're with so we can get to meet you. Questions?
All good.
I have a couple of media wonk questions.
So let's see
Since you mentioned frequency and on Roku, it looked to me from the chart, if I was reading it right, that what others complain about OTT, which is insane and often non-existent frequency caps, is actually not as big a problem for you. Where is diminishing returns when it comes to frequency on OTT?
That's a very good question. I think we have seen that was kind of surprised to be 7 plus, like the conversion rate at 12%. But at the same time, when I correlate to that frequency to linear, right? Like if you do like a weekly cut, that would be slightly below what we have on weekly on linear. So it kind of makes sense. So I think the way we are approaching here is like, I think OTT for us is like a frontier. If you ask like, do you invest more? Do you stop to invest less? I think it's like invest more. So based on what I know, like at least for Burger King, there's still like space to grow. So in that stage that we are, I'm not that concerned, to be honest, with you, because I am more concerned the over frequency that we have on linear. So what we have been doing is pretty much like shave this frequency that we have over frequency that we have on linear to be able to reinvest in other frontiers like OTT and digital. So I'm not, to be honest, I'm like right now, I'm not that concerned yet.
My other question is about the impact of PR and viral hits on your media plan. Later, we're lucky in this event to hear from two of the biggest QSR viral hits of the last year, the Impossible Burger, and also Lisa from Popeyes will be here later, later this week to talk about the chicken sandwich phenom. But I'm curious about when this happens, how are you calibrating PR hits, news hits, viral with your media plan? How does it impact it? As this thing blows up often in unpredictable ways, how does it change your media plan?
That's a very good question. I think, to be honest, like when sometimes like we present like the Whopper Detour and people think, well, you guys invested millions and millions behind the media plan, and it's like, if I tell you the number that I can't, well, like you guys would say like, no, you are bullshitting me. So I think the reason why is that we felt that we had an idea that it was like so strong. Then we said, let's take these media dollars that instead of we go bold and place awareness, let this piece be handled by the PR because it will, we knew. And let's use the dollars that we had to do like a very effective media. So the dollars that we put actually was like they were like smart media dollars, like all these geolocations, all the things, that was like where the dollars went, and not to do the boom, to do the splash. I think what we do, we try to balance this out. Like we have to remember that like Burger King, it's like a huge brand, right? But we don't have the biggest like ad spend out there, so we have to be very smart. And what we do, it's like we measure every single campaign that we have on hand. And luckily we have like amazing like PR agency and team, and we measure with them like, is this the kind of idea that we have to push with dollars more or less? And luckily sometimes we don't have to put dollars behind, and we can do to take these dollars and invest like in like geolocation, like being like buying like smart media, as we did for Detour. So it really depends.
So the geolocated media buy was actually pretty effective. You were pushing it.
That's
it was helping to push the app very effectively, even without the PR.
There is no like Opera Detour. If I remember, there was no partner like awareness partner on the media buy, I believe. Not even like to put the video on YouTube. I don't even recall if we did that. We paid, but the vast majority of the media dollars behind the tool was to geolocation, was to find specific people who would be engaged to go out there and participate.
Jorge, thank you so much for getting us off to such a good start.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to move sort of a radical shift from one of the biggest brands in the category that's talking about getting national reach through multi-platform buys to a much more grassroots approach. In fact, a brand that has baked into the brand its ties to local community. What do you do when you're a brand that has built its brand on the idea of being the local ice cream shop and actually changing your menus? What is it, Allison? You change your menus every month, you change your menus. As you start moving into local communities, what's the challenge of actually doing this in an authentic way? And how do you really build a brand through building communities around the brand? To talk to us about the ways in which Salt and Straw has done that is Allison Hyatt, who's the CMO of Salt and Straw. Before coming to the brand and leading all marketing efforts there, she has experience with a lot of much larger brands that have also had to deal with customer loyalty and building brand and community. Amazon, Starbucks, and REI. Please welcome Allison Hyatt.
Good morning. Thank you. That's a tough act to follow, Burger King, and the billions of awareness. So anyway, I'm excited to share a little bit about Salt and Straw this morning. Before I start off, how many have heard of Salt and Straw? Okay, that's great. How many have been to a Salt and Straw? Okay, that's very helpful. Well, I'm going to, as Stephen said, I'm going to share a little bit about the company to give it some context. There we go. Real quick company overview, and then really just share more food for thought, 3 ways in which we really try to become part of the communities and vice versa, and have the communities become part of us. So just 3 examples, which we can talk about further on the panel that follows, but just think these might be really fun to consider. So let's go back to the purpose of the company. And the purpose of the company does not have ice cream in it. And so just take a moment to think about that. What the purpose of the company really is to create happiness through moments of wonder. And I will go into that a little bit more, but it goes back to what we're talking about in terms of building community. In this picture right here, you'll see Kim Malik. She's one of the co-founders. She's our CEO. And then her cousin, Tyler, who is our head ice cream maker. A little bit of background. Kim, for many, many years, had this dream of really just having a community gathering place. And she really wanted to just be that neighborhood place where people would come with their families or, meet their neighbors in line or what have you. And so it really does go back to the beginning. And then at the same time that she was thinking about starting Salt and Straw, her cousin happened to be in culinary school. Went to Goodwill, bought an ice cream maker, started tinkering with some recipes, and the rest is history. He did not finish culinary school because he got really busy making ice cream, but that's just a little bit of background. As I mentioned earlier, it's a brand that's about more than just ice cream. And what we say is we use ice cream as a platform to explore ideas, ingredients, and connections. And again, this all goes back to creating those moments of wonder, really sort of being a conversation starter for communities. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a couple of the examples. At a quick glance here, founded in 2011, in Portland, handmade, still to this day, small batch ice cream. We have 20 shops. Those are all company owned. Average scoop shop's about 1,200 square feet. I'll talk a little bit about locations. We also have an e-commerce business, and then we have some really unique partnerships as well, which we really consider an extension of being a part of communities. And also, how do we partner with people where, as Kim says, people show up and go, of course Salt and Straw is there, because they're partnering with other people that are really focused on creating that wonder or that aha in a moment. So for example, Alaska Airlines. Has anybody had the opportunity to experience Salt and Straw on Alaska Airlines? Okay, yep. So just a little, wow, look at that. So that's also part of our strategy. When we look at locations, again, we have 20 locations right now. We are going to be making our big leap to the other coast from the West Coast this year, opening up 2 shops in Miami. So it's a very, very big moment for this little brand. But where we really try to do is, again, thinking about locations, it's not any one. It really is about where are people gathering in their communities. And so we do have a lot of, Main and Main High Street, but you also have some like One Paseo, suburbs, things of that nature. So it really is a mix. Probably one of our most exciting ones is in Disney. And according to Disney, they estimate that this might be the busiest ice cream shop in the world. So it's pretty fun. For those of you that have been to our scoop shops, you will notice that it feels a little bit different than other ice cream shops. We really try to transform the experience. One of the things that you're going to notice is you don't see the ice cream. When you come in, it really is about trying to just take a moment, move everything else aside, and focus on what you're about to experience. As we mentioned, one of the things that we do is we have sort of 2 sides to our menu, if we will. We have what we call our classics, and each city that we're in has their own classics menu. You heard me right? We have different menus for the different cities, working with different partners that are notable, and I'll talk a minute more about that. And then each season, or month, as we like to say, we change the menu, the other half of the menu. And again, I'll talk a little bit more about that. Just because we're in the marketing biz here, wanted to focus a little bit for marketing for us at this point in time in our growth has really been done by others. PR and social engagement have been our 2 biggest drivers to date, and have been in a big way since we started in 2011. So you can see here, that has been one of our biggest things, is really getting people to experience it and then talking about it. And same thing, not only for the media, but also when we look at our customers. They really are what has helped grow this brand. And if you look 20 locations and the number of Instagram followers, I was recently told that that was really at the high end relative to how many locations we have, having that many Instagram followers from a ratio standpoint. So that's something we think about, not just to drive the business, but how do we continue to drive the business, is thinking about these things and our community, if you will. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about examples about community. And one of the things before I launch into this is, as I noted, Salt and Straw is based in Portland. And when I travel around, it's interesting because people are like, oh, Salt and Straw, that's that Seattle brand. Oh, Salt and Straw, that's that brand from the Bay Area, isn't it? And it's interesting because it's about a 50-50 chance whether or not I correct people or not. Because I haven't quite solidified in my head that I necessarily, it's like, okay, that's maybe a job well done, that they really feel like this is part of their community. So where does it matter? And I think that's a little bit of how Salt and Straw is turning things on its head a little bit, is how do you be based one place, but really be owned in the hearts and mind by other places where you are, that people don't necessarily know where you are based. So I talked a lot about menus, and this plays a really big role for us, and I could talk forever just about this and different ones that we have done. But when I step back and talk about the role that our menus have played in the communities, first and foremost, as we mentioned, against sort of best practices of streamlining and efficiency and scalability and all of that, one of the secret sauces that we have is creating partners with different best makers, if you will. And I'll show some examples. Chefs, farmers, people that are in that community. And one of the best press things that was on the previous slide that I love is people said, you walk into a Salt and Straw, you read their menu, it's kind of the who's who or the best of that culinary scene of that city. And so that's really exciting too, because a lot of times people want to try Salt and Straw, but then they've also heard about, Beecher's cheese in Seattle. And so they think, wow, this is great. I'm getting to try both of these things. So that has been probably one of the biggest areas of importance, but also too, because when we think about our partners, they were really we always say 1 + 1 = 11, better together in terms of creating a bigger splash. Seasons Reimagined, we, like a lot of us in this room, we celebrate the holidays, we have Halloween, we have Thanksgiving, but we do them a little bit differently. And again, in the spirit of creating those moments of wonder. So for those of you that don't know, for Thanksgiving, Tyler, our head ice cream maker and team, recreates a Thanksgiving dinner in the form of ice cream. So we have a candied turkey skin ice cream. We have a cranberry blood orange sorbet. We have a stuffing ice cream. And I know people are like, what? That sounds weird. Just taste it before you judge. Just promise me you taste it. And so that's fun for people. And I can't tell you how much I would see people posting on social media that then they would have their Thanksgiving ice cream or their ice cream Thanksgiving after they had their traditional Thanksgiving. So again, another way to create moments of wonder and community and excitement. Same thing with Halloween. I don't know if any of you have had, but we partner with a firm down in the Bay Area. We're using bugs for protein. And we actually have an ice cream with some bugs in it during the Halloween time period. So again, that's been really fun. All that aside, we also do things that are raising conversations for communities, whether it is food waste, sort of the imperfect foods. We did a whole menu based on sort of going out and using those foods that otherwise might not necessarily get chosen to be used. Human rights is another area where have done some things. I go back to Burger King and having a little bit of a personality and some voice on different topics that spark conversation, and then have really been involved about local farming and supporting local farming. Couple examples that I mentioned here, as you can see, in California, we've coupled with, Dandelion chocolate, Sight Glass coffee. In Portland, we have, Aberkina olive oil. So there's just different ones that from local suppliers, different ones that we are working with, Beecher's cheese, Elm coffee, and all of those people become part of the fabric of the menu and our partners in the city. And right now, that is taking place for a couple more days. This is a current example. Over here, I apologize, but you can see we've got a list of all of the chocolatiers and all of the flavors by city on the right-hand side for each of the chocolatiers. So we worked with about 25 different chocolatiers, different in our markets. Each menu is different. And then we created a map. You can see over on the left-hand side, we created a map that sort of pinpointed where all these chocolatiers are located in each of the cities. So a custom map menu, and then really promoting people to get out and sort of local love, go visit their chocolatiers in their city. So again, another way of creating community by maybe creating a way to discover things within their own city. Another one that we have a lot of fun with each September, and this really falls into that hyper-local efforts, and it goes back to the very beginning. When Kim and Tyler opened up their first shop in North Portland, there was an elementary school around the corner. And the first thing was they said, you know what? When we go to back to school, we should have fun and we should really work with the kids and create this Student Inventor series where they learn a little bit about the science and the flavors and what flavors go together. And they created this curriculum. And now this year again, we will have it in over 30 schools because we partner, our shop managers and our store teams partner with those schools, go do exercises. The kids come up with these different flavors. And then we actually have those in our shops in the month of September. Those act also as a fundraiser for the schools, and we give a percentage back of the menu to those schools. And then throughout the year, we do other things with those schools where some will partner with our shops to create snowflakes, decorations for our shop windows during the holiday time period, or we will donate ice cream for other fundraisers and auctions. So again, very hyper local efforts, but things that have been really effective in terms of becoming part of the community and the community becoming a part of us. And last one is really, I think, one that is near and dear to both of our founders, is what we talk about of building community through connections. And, you know, we have a joke, if you haven't experienced it, but people that have know that Salt and Straw has lines. And in the world of quick serve, lines, things like, what is going on? What are you doing? And what's interesting, though, is we have really found that if you make it worthwhile, people are okay with that. And we now are going on, our next year will be 10 years, and it still amazes me when I drive by the first Salt and Straw, no matter time or day, still a line out the door. And one of the things when we ask customers, it's like, you know what? I get to meet other people in line. I talk to them. We're talking about the ice cream, what they're going to try. It really becomes part of the experience. But I think at the end of the time, and this quote does it best, it's really that full-faced attention of sampling. So many people are like, wow, I got up there and I could sample as many of them as I wanted to. And so then they sort of understand this experience that's about to happen and exploring. And some people have a standing date that they come every single month when the new Flavor Friday hits and come and sample all of these. So again, throughout here, I've kind of touched on some things where Salt and Straw has been really effective of going a little bit counter to logic, but really figuring out a way to, again, become part of the communities and vice versa. And we're really, really lucky and thankful that people, once they try it, really get on for the ride and are excited about experiencing it. So those are just a couple examples.
Allison, thank you so
Yeah.
much. Allison is going to stay right there. If you have questions for Allison, hang on to your questions because Allison, I asked Allison to present this sort of as a preamble to the panel, which brings up two other emerging brands to talk about the challenge of brand building in an increasingly cluttered environment. To take the lead on this panel, we have Sarah Hoffman, who's the Director of Connections at T3, an agency that's been an old friend of MediaPost for a number of years. She's worked on the agency side for a number of years and has done work for brands like Nestle and Annie's and UPS. Please welcome Sarah and our panel.
Got the boy band stools here. Girl band, I guess, for this one. Let's see. Okay, well, welcome everyone. Thanks for the introduction, Steve. This is Brand Building Against QSR Clutter. Want to do kind of a quick survey of the audience as we're thinking of getting into this and structuring. How many of you, by show of hands, are marketing managers or brand managers? Okay, how many of you are folks who are vendors, platforms, agencies? Keep your hands up. So everyone who raised your hand in the beginning, get all of those people to buy you a drink because we know you deserve it. And all the ladies to my left definitely deserve it too, as they've been building their concepts and really trying to carve out space for their brands. I think one of the things that was interesting as this session started is there's a little bit of difference, maybe in points of opinion or the way people are running their media when it comes to the brand versus the performance. And so I think we're going to have a really insightful conversation today about that. I think it's easy, the large folks, Popeyes is here, Burger King's here, to assume that with scale, you get return. I think one of the things that scale doesn't buy you is preference. And so excited to talk to these brands today because they've done an amazing job in driving preference. They've done an amazing job in getting people excited about their brands with the things that they're doing. So I know, Allison, you just talked about your concept. Jane and RT, can you just talk a little bit about what you're doing with Melt Shop and Capriotti's?
So Capriotti's is has two weird regional bases, Delaware and Las Vegas. But the brand is about a 40-year-old brand. Our specialty over the past 40 years has been roasting turkeys overnight and hand pulling the freshly roasted turkey off the bone every morning and making sandwiches out of it. So we have some incredible kind of Thanksgiving themed sandwiches and great turkey sandwiches, but we also added, along with the turkeys, sell tremendously high-end cheesesteaks. So we have an array of about 8 different cheesesteaks to complement the turkeys sandwiches. But what we're really, I think, it was really inspiring to hear about Burger King because we've tried to be as disruptive as possible with a really bold personality over the past couple of years, and it's been working really effectively for us.
So a little bit about Melt Shop. We started in 2001 as a grilled cheese concept. We took a very familiar product and we were really differentiated because nobody else was doing it. Over the years, we've developed into a full menu of melted sandwiches, cheeseburgers. We're just doing chicken on a bun, tenders, tots, and really taking this concept that started in New York City and is now expanded throughout the Northeast and creating a product of just good food. We live in this beautiful space where our guests want our food. You need a salad, you need a healthy veggie plate, you come to Melt Shop because you want our food. You've had a bad day, you're celebrating, you're hungover, whichever it is, it's a really nice space to live in. Over the past year, we've actually focused on taking that good food and adding the convenience factor so you can get Melt Shop however you want. You can walk into our shops, we're testing kiosks, you don't have to talk about anybody, you order, you're in and out. You want a little bit of engagement with our cashiers, you can do that. We have an app that you can order pickup on, delivery, we do the third party, and so we're really giving you the experience that you want that's in the best method that you want it.
Thank you. So kind of all of you hit on some things in your presentation, Allison, as well, of the role of your brand, doing things differently, maybe positioning yourselves a little bit differently. Can you talk, all three of you, a little bit about how you're balancing brand performance, the idea of ROI, the lower funnel metrics, the things that we're tracking, with building brand perception, the place that someone wants to go when they're hungover, that stands out in the feed? Let's have people kind of unpack that a little bit. Whoever wants to start.
I can take that. I can take the starter over there. I think, like I said, we created this familiar product, and it has been a little bit difficult in the frequency range because everybody thinks they can make a grilled cheese. So we've really focused on, how do we get our guests and our customers that are very engaged to help us build the brand. So we use a customer service engagement tool called Tattle. And within Tattle, we've actually asked very directed questions about what our guests want. So if we're thinking about testing tenders, for example, we put it on the survey in advance to see what the perception is going to be and how people are going to react to something like that. That seems like a far extension of the brand, but it makes sense. And this, in the past 90 days, we've gotten 1,800 Tattle responses. So it's a good tool for us to really help tell that story, and it feels like a partnership with our guests.
So we've just been really forthright about really leveraging and embracing our brand about extraordinary. And the way we've been positioning it recently, really effectively, is everybody's got their own version of extraordinary. Our version of extraordinary is just killer food. So we take all the time to make celebrate these really slow processes that we have, so we can deliver food really fast. Cooking, slow roasting these turkeys, taking extra care in the long process of making these killer cheesesteaks. So we have really focused on that, but we're doing it and really tailoring the message to each media channel in a way that's super digestible for that media channel to take advantage of, the strength of social and that storytelling and the fact that we can be a little bit more engaging or crazy. Whereas in, when we're buying radio, we're definitely still a little bit more canned, but we're pushing the boundaries of our personality in that kind of like, you do your extraordinary, we'll do ours, and this is our version of extraordinary. And if you believe in extraordinary, which everybody does, come celebrate that your version of extraordinary with us.
Very similar to Jane in terms of we really have to focus on the payoff of that experience. So for us, again, most of our marketing right now really has been press and social media. And I want to go back to a couple of the things that I mentioned where the depth, it really has to be done with intention. So in terms of creating Thanksgiving dinner out of ice cream, if it wasn't good, that we would not still be talking about it. It would be a one-hit wonder, and people would be like, oh, that was really interesting. What's the next thing? But each year, people will come back, and that will become part of their Thanksgiving. And so there has to be true intention. Same thing with the edible bugs. That seems like, oh, that's crazy. It has an intention, talking about proteins and insects and the way in which things are moving forward. But yes, it's also very timely and doing it at a time when people might be able to take it in based on Halloween. So I think it's really being thoughtful and intentional to have depth to what at the surface level might seem sort of like, oh, that's wacky. That would be more short-lived. So I think that's really been our focus at this point in time.
Yeah, so interesting that kind of all three of you, it sounds like perception becomes a bit of a driver of performance, but you try to be strategic about the way that you're doing it, either with the intention that's behind it, what your customers want to get from you, or what they might expect as you're thinking about how you push your brand. And then I think, Jane, for you, being very intentional in where you put it in the channel as you're thinking about what metric it's delivering against. I think one of the things that came up very clearly in this morning's recap was the role of channels. Can you talk a little bit, Jane, maybe about your strategy, your marketing strategy overall, tactics, channels, and kind of where you've seen successes or challenges in the plans you've put into place?
Yeah, when I joined Capriati's about 2.5 years ago, and we didn't have a very big media budget. I rolled out 2 or 3 co-ops, put together some media budgets so we could start in our geographic areas of strength, start advertising. So first thing I jumped into was a big strategic digital initiative to push the brand forward with a digital, so we could be very purposeful and data driven and make it incredibly smart and I could prove out that advertising worked effectively. And what we found was just that kind of single-minded focus on one channel wasn't delivering the ROI that we needed. Certainly it had reach, it had frequency, it had all the, we expected it to, be able to drive great results. But geo-targeting's not a perfect science, and programmatic is hard. And without having kind of a broader media awareness, we didn't see the results that we had anticipated. So we started diversifying our media spending. We have enough money, we're in a position where we can diversify our media spending, and we can buy, mix in radio, which is so a little bit more broader, broadcast, mass market reach with digital, and we started seeing a lot better results. And we've been very purposeful in marrying up our social, our what kind of programmatic digital, and our radio, because that's what's within our budget. And we've seen a lot greater results out of kind of more of an omni-channel approach to going to market. And we can get really segmented and really dedicated to being more customer specific in our app, and we get a little bit more personality and deliver a lot of the energy of the brand in social, and then we use broadcast to deliver more broad market, and it's been working really effectively.
That's great. Artie, how about you in terms of your media channels, tactics, strategy?
So we're really focused on digital this year. Some of our key tactics have been social and influencers. Like Jorge mentioned, we have an opportunity to really tell our story and build a voice with a little bit of sass, and that's actually paid off really well. And this year we're working on creating a digital ecosystem that really talks to each other. So we updated our app last year. So how do we use all of those channels to support our goals? Something we did in January was, it's technically a slow time for us because nobody wants a grilled cheese, but we're like, we're going to own it. So we became the official sponsors of your cheat day and pushed out a variety of tactics on all channels. So if you are a loyalty customer on our app, you got a deal at the beginning of the month that said, hey, when you're ready, I have a BOGO deal for you for your cheat day. We pushed it to influencers. When you guys are ready for your cheat day, I got a cheeseburger waiting for you. We did it on social, we did it on eBlast, and so really getting all those channels to talk is something we're focused on. But our focus has been more on digital, PR, some of the smaller scale stuff.
And Allison?
Yeah, I think for us, again, really focused on digital and how do we leverage. We recently launched our e-commerce as well. So for us, we've been focusing a lot more on specific to e-com, and then eventually when we hit sort of our high season this summer, focusing up more from a shop's perspective. But again, really, we're at the basics right now in terms of supporting our e-commerce business and then rolling that out for a shop perspective.
Sure. So a lot of digital focus, but making sure that there's other pieces rolled in, whether it be things happening in store with influencers, PR, more traditional tactics, that you're really rounding out the channels to try to reach the customer. I think that's something that can sometimes fall off, or something that maybe we've tested out of because data's gotten so good, but thinking about the environment they're about to move into where tracking changes, attribution starts to change, there's challenges. And so you all are really focusing heavily on how do you build the brand through different touch points for the user in a really relevant way. And it sounds like it's been working so far. I would love to know a little bit more about maybe how you've tested into those channels or what your process is with inside of your organization for doing tests or for maybe taking some risks when it comes to what you're doing with your brand marketing.
So we launch new products. A lot of what we're doing is launching new products and testing through those. But when we test our marketing, we will do a lot of A/B testing, and a lot of it is not. I think what's really challenging is not just testing in one silo, because our entire marketing mix has an impact on our sales. So when we test in one silo, isolating the silo to what is the actual results for that silo sometimes gets a little noisy when it comes to how does it actually increase sales. So we end up looking at a lot of just media metrics as a result to really define our A/B test and see what is driving results. But looking that narrowly sometimes limits our ability to look broadly at what are the big sales impacts. So we do a lot of A/B testing. Last year we did a lot of A/B testing on our app. And saw that actually really engaging the customer was as effective as delivering really deep discounts. So that was a really big aha and new news to us. And then one other thing that we tested through was we've just been doing a lot of digital testing in terms of what is the right mix of programmatic video and programmatic display to drive sales. And like everybody else is learning, video is what's doing the trick.
Yeah, I'm going to echo your sentiment. We do a lot of tasting, and we also have a fail fast mentality. So if it's not working, let's get together and fix it. I think that's the best you can do, and we'll test it. We have franchise locations, we have corporate owned, and we have licensing. So we'll start at the corporate owned level to see what it's working, and we have the ability to fail fast there and taking the data, then presenting it to our partners and really expanding from there.
Yeah, I very much in terms of the fail fast. Really learn quickly, looking at the feedback, what takes. We are pleasantly surprised on certain things like, wow, wow, people really responded to that. So do a little bit more of this. And I think it's just continuing to just try different angles has been really the way in which we've learned the most.
And speaking of different angles, it sounds like all of you do a lot when it comes to menu adaptation or maybe menu expansion. Can you talk a little bit about the role of the menu and the product in building your brand in a really crowded marketplace?
Yeah, for us, our food is our story. And like I mentioned earlier, people come to Melt Shop because they love us. And so we really have to make sure the food has that craveability angle. And it gives us something to talk about. So we launched a series of LTOs last year. So every quarter in April, which is National Grilled Cheese Month, we will do a series of products that are just really crave forward and that we want to test to see is this worth really putting on the menu permanently. And so it's usually 3 products, and it's the same tactics across the board. It's 4-wall marketing, it's social, it's influencers, it's PR, and it just gives us this opportunity to reconnect with guests and to get new guests and build that brand awareness and tell the story of Melt Shop.
So we launched 3 new products last year, and we'll launch 3 or 4 new products this year. And for us, we have a 40-year-old brand. We actually haven't changed our menu very much in 40 years. So adding new products to the menu has been really interesting. And what we've used for last year was to change our profitability mix, and so that way to drive more profitability into the restaurant, which was a really effective strategy for us. Adding more chicken and turkey into the menu worked great, and then this year we're doing it to drive top line sales, and we've did our first product launch last week and have seen a huge top line sales increase. But we did do it with a really robust marketing plan, with a very omni-channel approach to reaching customers in lots of different ways, and also looking kind of at a mass market mixed in with a very specific targeted strategies to reach the very specific target audience. We know who are the buyers, so it's been working really effectively in week 1. So
You just launched Impossible, right?
it was an Impossible cheesesteak.
Look out, Burger King. But I think there's something interesting in what all of you've said is there's a bit of a balancing between the core, the things that are the staples, the LTOs, the things that get people in. Are there strategies that you have for making sure that you continue to elevate your core products with your fan base of customers while you're still introducing things that maybe make headlines or get people to stop and say, bug ice cream, that's so crazy?
Last year, we refined our core products. One of the things we did was, a cheesesteak is great, but if it has mushrooms, onions, and peppers on it, it is like heaven. So we made mushrooms, peppers, and onions standard to the recipe, so now you have to remove them, it was a really big deal for a 40-year-old brand to make that kind of a adaptation. Muscle memory, we retrain everybody from a muscle memory standpoint on how to think about it and how to do it, and those core customers had to make a change. But now, our first-time user experience has really improved as a result of delivering that product in its very best iteration of itself. So that way, as we're bringing in new customers, they're more likely to come back.
Yeah, and I think you stay focused, true to who you are. We recently launched cheeseburgers, which was the first time we did a soft bun. We did a burger, and it seemed like such a far reach from who we are, but we used the same type of terminology and how do we make this ownable? Okay, this is going to be the cheesiest cheeseburger. It had the same type of quality of ingredients. It had the same marketing strategy. It kind of had our same voice and feel, so it made sense. While it was for a far extension, you have to keep that in mind as well.
And so I think that there's this balance where you're allowing them to explore, but also get their favorites. We also have sort of an inside secrets that people start to know where you can get a split scoop. So you can get, rather than saying, well, I really love this flavor and I really love this flavor versus a double scoop, you can get a single scoop that is split. So really finding ways to have people adopt those new flavors and those new experiences. I think also in terms of having things be available, we also are playing with LTOs online and having fun with a lot of our clients based on that respect too. So it's like, hey, we're going to bring this back online. We tuck to the kitchen. We have it made for a certain amount of time. And so it just keeps it fresh that they might not be able to get it in the shop, but then they could get it online. So we're really playing with a lot of different ways in which the menu continues to stay fresh and exciting and new.
Sometimes that play can feel like a little bit of a risk, I'm sure. Just knowing that we're running out of time and thinking about what everyone here is probably interested in learning when we think about this specific topic, how would you recommend people take risks, or what's a recommendation you would have to people who are thinking about how do they stand out in all of the clutter? How do they make a name for themselves in this space?
We've taken a couple big kind of leaps of faith, and just the fact that we had opportunities that presented themselves that we had to move really fast on from a market opportunity. So last year, the Las Vegas Golden Knights were in the Stanley Cup Finals. They were playing the Washington Capitals. And the city officials made a citywide announcement that nobody in Las Vegas should be using capital letters during the week of Stanley Cup. Our company name is Capriati's, and during the No Caps week, that was a little bit of a scary thing for us. So over the weekend, we rebranded the entire concept to night riades inspired by the Golden Knights, and took advantage of every favor we could call in to like get in every kind of publication with a print ad over the weekend, and put it out on social media and did PR releases and became night riades for the week of the Stanley Cup. So it meant that we had to kind of drop everything we were doing for the weekend in order to pull it off, but it was a huge PR kind of win for us in this no caps environment for us to take advantage of that. So I think as much as taking a risk, it's also willing to take a chance as fast as you can when a weird opportunity arises that puts you at the center of the community.
I think one of the things that we all hear the buzzword about authenticity, and that has really stayed true. So when we think about going to Miami, which is really new, Tyler and team have spent over a year understanding that particular market and really meeting with the culinary who's who of that market and who we're partnering with and so on. And so that you're not necessarily just going in with your preconceived notions of what flavors Miami should be. Some of them might be that way, but with a twist. And so just staying, again, very authentic to what is the newness that you're bringing. Yes, you're bringing a reflection of the community, but maybe in a different way. So you're actually adding to the community versus sort of reflecting the same. So I think that's been very, very important for us.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think it's just knowing what your goals are and what you're trying to achieve, but also knowing that the path to getting there is going to be completely different. So take a couple of risks, but again, fail fast. We have this mentality of listening to our guests, testing a product, tweaking it, listening to them again, tweaking it, and then rolling out. And so it's just learning to be nimble and act fast.
Thank you all so much. I think just to summarize and kind of recap what all of these ladies told us, the little nuggets of wisdom, balancing that idea of performance with perception. In the referral economy, there's so much value in what these brands are doing in the communities that they're building around their specific product. How do they balance digital with traditional, and all of the role of channels, making sure that there is a pretty healthy mix and that they're not only thinking about the short-term implication of something that happens at the bottom of the funnel, but also that they're thinking about the long-term implication for their overall brand and their expansion path. And then I think finally, taking risks, finding ways to test hypotheses. Go in with an assumption, but go out with some sort of data that you're able to collect. I think that there's surely only great things to come from this crew, and I'm not sure if folks have questions for them or maybe how they've gotten to where they are, or other recommendations they might have, but would love to open the floor for some questions. Steve, if I may.
Sarah, thank you so much, and panel, thank you so much. We have time for questions. Yeah. And where's the? We'll get the mic to you.
Hi guys. Me first?
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Thank you guys so much. Ashley Travis, a recent transplant from Seattle to Texas, so huge Salt and Straw fan. Balsamic strawberry is my jam. I asked them if you could bring some with you, but I was told no. That's okay. So a great presentation. I loved how you talked about building local communities. My question is around how you start to operationalize within your organization the ability to stay locally relevant, but still be efficient in how you operate, especially as you expand.
That is a great question. And for us, it really starts with the people that we're hiring. Do they really see this as being part of the community, and for our shop managers and our scoopers, and really just finding that right fit of people who really understand what Salt and Straw is trying to do and how it can add to their community. So that's first and foremost, is finding those the talent that really aligns. The other thing is, how do we set them up for success in terms of giving them tools of ways to interact with their communities? So we have a neighborhood pints program. So they are able to take a certain number of pints each week, and they can go to their neighbors or neighboring businesses. There's just a number of sort of grassroots programs that we have rolled out to help them be community ambassadors. We also, as I touched on just briefly, when we think about some of our partnerships, our strategic partners, that has been another way to help the shop managers be a part of the community. So in Seattle, serving at the Mariners, we're really excited about that this year. That helps them be a part of that community and have that conversation and ways to be able to be present outside of their particular shop area. So we've really tried to create a program and with tools to help them make connection points that are authentic and easy for them to do.
Back here.
Hi, Nasli Hiramanik, Director of Brand Marketing at Firehouse Subs. When our agency is trying to get my blood pressure up, they'll send me articles like The Death of Lunch. And I think there was one headline about how lunch is over because everyone is just eating at their bacteria-infested desks. But the theme that was emerging from a lot of these articles and some secondary and even primary research was blending of day parts, a traditional lunch not being had in the same way it was, more snacking and grazing habits, especially of millennials and Gen Z. I'm wondering if any of that has affected any of you in terms of product promotion, media, in how you're thinking about how you're reaching audiences as these habits, and especially in the lunch day part, are changing.
That's an interesting question. We have definitely been changing the way our combos all work, so that way you can snack more accessibly. And we've also been changing our entire size makeup. Traditionally kind of these Delaware, Philly sandwich places all start at 9-inch sub, and so the market's evolved to a place where people are eating smaller more frequently, and so we've been mixing up the way our sizes work. We've launched a whole new size setup, so you can now eat a 5-inch sub, but there's tons of combos. So I think we're addressing it, immediately on a size and kind of combo and product mix. In addition to that, we have looked at, we do optimize our media based on kind of consumer-driven behavior, and have seen a media mix, the way we're optimizing our media is being delivered kind of more throughout the entire day.
Yeah, we're doing something similar as well. And to touch on what I said earlier, it is just giving the guests what they want when they want it. So that convenience factor, it's you can have it whenever you want, in whatever channel you want it. Whether it's sitting on your desk, not moving at all at 5 p.m. and you want a chicken sandwich, and really creating a menu that's adaptable to any day part.
And I think that's a great kind of additional point. As an agency, I'm so sorry that you're getting those articles. We send them around a lot. Auntie Anne's is one of my clients, so as you can imagine, not only is it like snacking and everything's different, but you also have a mall presence. So we get a lot of those scary articles, but I think to the point of, yes, there's menu innovation, there's size changes that can be made, that can be rolled out to hit on some of that snacking behavior, but there are still people who are eating lunch, and there's payoff points to the lunch that they can get from you. Accessibility, convenience, how are those being brought forward in your marketing message as you think about behavior changing? So not only about the day part and the menu that's available for that, but what other benefits does the customer get from having that interaction with you specifically? So I think there's a little more flexibility even just beyond menu changes to help with some of the marketing messaging to keep people coming for lunch.
So Sarah, Allison, Jane, and Arthi, thank you so much. That was a great opening panel. And we're going to continue it. Sarah's going to lead the roundtable, extending this topic at the end of the morning. So thanks, everybody. By the way, I wanted to mention, because I just did the count here, and it only struck me as I was finishing up the agenda a couple of weeks ago, that we have 16 brands represented over the next 3 days, only 4 of whom are represented by men. 16 of the 16 speakers, only 4 are male. That's quite a testament to this industry. We have. I often, over many years, especially doing tech conferences, I often had to struggle to make sure we had some hint of gender equality on panels. I mean, if I could manage to make sure I had one woman on every panel, that was a win for us. This is amazing. We did this without even trying. So that is great. And of course, we can't do this without our sponsors, and especially sponsors like Lotame that have been with us for many, many years. One of the great cool things about our sponsors is that they understand that when they buy into a MediaPost event, they're supporting independent journalists like me. The program that we put on, the 3 hours we put on every morning, is marketers talking to marketers. We don't do pay-to-play here. So our sponsors really agree to maintaining their spots as traditional sponsors, supporting the independence of what we put on here. So if you'll take the next 10 minutes to pay attention to, again, one of our longest running sponsors, Lotame, and Ryan Downey, Jason Downey, who's the Chief Revenue Officer there, he's going to be talking about what a view. You should see the customer panorama from here. Jason?
Thank you, Steve. I've got 10 minutes, and you guys need coffee, so let me get started. As Steve said, I'm Jason Downey. I'm the CRO of Lotame. I've been at Lotame for 9 years. Recently took on the CRO job, but was a big part of building the data business at Lotame. Lotame is a leading provider of unstacked data and data tech solutions to marketers, brands, and agencies. So super thrilled to be here and to join in the discussion this morning about the customer experience and lots of other topics. So let's see. So I'm a dance dad. So speaking of customer experiences, this is my daughter Sabrina. Sabrina is a badass. She tours all over the Eastern Seaboard, competing in dance competitions. It's kind of her full-time job outside of school. About 20 hours a week, she's rehearsing or competing. And last year, she and her hip-hop team won the national championship in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina for their age group. So super excited about that. While I drive around with her and go to events, in the breaks and at the end of these events, we head out, and her favorite thing in the world is chicken nuggets, right? That's what she loves, and as a lot of kids do. And so she loves Chick-fil-A. I know this is a bipartisan group, so I didn't pick it, she did, so you can blame her. But so we go to Chick-fil-A, and whenever we can find one, if there isn't one, she kind of goes down the list, and we make sure we get the chicken nuggets. So why that's important for us and for you, of course, as you think about this stuff on a daily basis, is who are those customers that are coming into your stores, and these kind of personal experiences are happening every single day. And it's not just based on like what somebody buys, but what they do and who they are and what they think about, and that's how you inform your creative and how you inform your offers and all the cool offers and things that I've heard about today. So this is happening all the time in your restaurants, right? Friends catching up, coworkers grabbing lunch, etc. So at Lotame, we're starting to think about for QSRs how to solve the data gap between kind of the data that you have that's direct with your consumers, whether it be an app or your website or an offer that you are able to collect some data on a customer, the gap between that and kind of the rest of the data, right? The rest of the data in the world. So you guys all have kind of a slim view of your customers. We like to say, I mean, it's really important and it's gold and all the things that you do to expand that are super important. Those efforts need to continue. But if you have 2 or 3 or 5 million direct connections with your consumer, what do you do about the rest of the country, right, or the world if you're thinking about it globally? So that kind of data capture and understanding, that trend is continuing. Speaking of trends, I wanted to talk about a few as it relates to your particular industry. At Lotame, we've been around 13 years, and we have a lot of publisher clients, we have a lot of marketer clients, and so when we go to market, we say, Lotame is good for marketers because of X, Y, Z. What we're trying to do now is become expert as a vendor and as a partner in your particular space. So I've spent the last several months with our team just digging into QSR in particular to help kind of understand like what you're worried about. And this conference, of course, helps us a lot to try to think like you think and to worry about the things that you worry about. So some trends. I know Jorge spoke earlier about who knew the Whopper Detour. I was one of them who raised my hand. So obviously we saw that campaign and thought it was pretty great. And there was another one that he didn't mention in his presentation, which is this play on the Joker, where Burger King said that clowns can be annoying, and so in the Bronx they had the Joker stairs where Joaquin Phoenix had gone down those stairs. They put the King there and said, basically if you come by this area, there's certain things that we can offer you. This is location data, right? So he's talking about being within 600 feet of a restaurant. That data comes from somewhere, right? It's a vendor that geofences the country. Lotame has access to all that data worldwide as well as nationwide with regards to kind of everybody, not just your customers, not people who just have your app or people you've communicated with, but also just kind of all the vendors that provide that data. So having that location data is really important as you think about your LTOs and think about about how you are going to speak to your customers. And as Fernando said, was all the things that Jorge just showed you, there's literally tens and hundreds of ideas that come out. How do you keep that fresh? How do you keep thinking of new things to do, right? Well, in order to do that, you have to have data, you have to have insight. Jane was just speaking right now about the Golden Knights and how they did night realities, and those kind of ideas are inspired, and they come from understanding the world and understanding reading articles and understanding the press and understanding what people are thinking about, what they're interested in, right? So if you knew that there were several million dance dads that were in the location that you were trying to target, what kind of message could you give to them, right? So that's kind of an idea that you have to keep pushing forward, and it's hard to do that. Another trend is partnerships. I'm sure you've seen this or things like it. Saucony and Dunkin' did a partnership in 2018 around the Boston Marathon. I was born and raised in Boston, so this is near and dear to my heart. And the marathon's a very important part of Boston culture. And they did a joint venture where they said, okay, Saucony has a shoe and Dunkin' is going to sponsor that, and they put it together. It was so successful in 2018 that they did it again in 2019. If you think about how that partnership came about, how did you get creative there? There's some data there that says that Dunkin' customers are into athletics and into running and things like that. And Saucony says, oh, people are interested in coffee. And so how do you put those things together and think of something creative? So partnerships are, as I'm sure a lot of you know, are a big part of what's happening, and this is a way to kind of get at that. And then the third trend is the theme of today, which is fragmentation, right? We've been talking about that a lot. And how do you figure out how to, plan and spend your budgets on TV versus radio versus print versus digital versus social, all that kind of stuff. So informing that, collecting data and understanding how that data interacts across all those channels is really important in your decision making. So what Lotame is working on is creating a data set for you that helps you, whether it's you in-house or with your agency, look at a panoramic view of the customer across the entire country, across people that you don't touch, the unknowns, if you will, right? So, this is kind of like somebody gave me the analogy last week and said, it's like looking at your data and only the data that you have access to is kind of like saying that you like the outdoors, but you kind of just sit in your backyard, right? There's so much more out there that needs to be discovered in a usable way for you, not just kind of like all over the place. I saw earlier one of the concerns that one of you had written was there's so much data and there's so many platforms and they don't connect and they don't talk to each other. What we're trying to do is to bring that all together for you. We have 180 companies that give us data, and we have 50 channels that we send data out to. And in between, our data science team is refining that data and making it clean and usable for either yourselves or your agencies across all the verticals you can think of, all the interests, all the demographics, all that kind of stuff. So what you can do is find the right partners, extract the value, and and get some tech, some data tech to help grow with you as we go forward in this. I could spend, a couple hours talking about, the cookies crumbling and all the other things that are happening, and we can certainly talk about that as we go through the next couple days. But all those issues are being combined together around the data that we're creating. Quick use case for you before I wrap up, and this is Chick-fil-A, no surprise. A solution is connecting data to location, TV data to location. So we have a bunch of people that have visited Chick-fil-A restaurants. We have a bunch of people who have seen ads on Wi-Fi connected TVs. And we're able to look at those two things together to help you create insights for media, as an example. Another example is taking those things, the viewers of the commercials, viewers of programs, and visitors to stores, and getting insights from that, the overlap of that data. What do those customers look like? And then using that data to create your messages, to send that out to search, display, CRM, social, all the channels that you need to be in, right? One other thing is that, again, the overlap in all the affinities, demographics, and interests of all those people, the unknowns. We have, for example, the visitors to Chick-fil-A, 65% of those visitors are female with a high level of disposable income. And so on the right-hand side here, you see all the interests that those people have. A couple of big ones are Sony PlayStation. Maybe it's them, maybe it's their children, who knows? You have an interest in roll gold pretzels, so maybe there's some LTOs you can do to kind of message those people with a pretzel bun or a coupon to buy an LTO for a coupon when people go to Target to buy a PlayStation, for example. So all those things are things you can think about, and the possibilities are endless if you have the right amount of the right data and lots of it. Finally, I'd just like to say that like I said, I only have 10 minutes, and you guys need coffee, so that's coming very soon. First-party data is a great start, of course, and I would never tell you that it's not. It's the gold. It's the things that you're thinking about every day and keeping you up. How do you grow that first-party data? But in addition, I would ask you to consider all the rest of the data and how partners can help you as you select your partners to look at that data, visualize it, and organize it, and put it all in one place that you can look at it. So in conclusion, I'd like to say get panoramic. We have a table right outside here. We're giving away a GoPro. I heard last evening that a couple of people were extremely interested in that. So throw your card in there, and we'll be giving it away, I think, later today. Thanks very much for your time, and I hope to talk to you soon.
Jason, great job. Thank you very much. Yeah, so the entry forms are out there. Put your name in, and we'll either be doing it at the end of the day today or tomorrow. Not sure on the GoPro giveaway, so stay tuned there. We're going to break for coffee now. We have about 15, 20 minutes to network a little bit. Also sponsored by our friends at Lotame. So go outside, grab some coffee, enjoy the sun if you'd like, and we'll see you back here in about 15, 20 minutes. Thanks.